Okay, good evening. Welcome everyone to tonight's very special event. We have the great honor to hear from somebody who's on the frontline hero, Baruch Hashem, an IDF soldier. Let's give a round of applause to Yosef Green, Baruch Hashem. Before we call upon him, we're going to be leading off with some Tehillim, with some opening remarks. Of course, this is being presented by Chazaq, Young Israel Queens Valley, the Queens Jewish Link. Of course, a special thank you to Ruben Paris, all the rabbis, leadership of the shul. Let's give a round of applause, and of course, all the rabbanim, for hosting and for joining us. And of course, let's give a special thank you to Yaakov Searle, the Queens Jewish Link, who helped us coordinate. Of course, his great nephew is going to be inspiring us today, and of course, Chazaq, as of course we know, organizes different events, programming for the community at large. Events, shiurim for men, for women, for young and old, everyone to give inspiration, to give chizuk, and of course, you know that Chazaq, one of their main missions is to inspire tens of thousands of public school students who are in our neighborhoods, whether it's a relative, whether it's a neighbor, it's your coworker, you don't even realize that you might have kids in public school. Chazaq is on the forefront with after-school programs, Sunday school programs, over 20 different locations, and Baruch Hashem has helped transfer over 2,000 students from public school yeshiva. Baruch Hashem, and it's our great honor, of course. It's a very great gathering tonight, and of course we want to start with some Tehillim, so we're going to call upon the CEO and founder of Chazaq, Rabbi Meirav, and of course everyone should join in Tehillim while he's released it.
Let's give a round of applause to Rabbi Abel for all that he does for Klal Yisrael. Shkach Rabbi, thank you to all the rabbanim, to everyone for organizing Yaakov once again to the shul. Okay, Shir Lamalo, Tesain Ali Arim, Ain Yavo Ezri, Meim Adonai, Yosef Shamayim Va'aretz. Al Yiten Labod Ragecha, Al Yanum Shomerecha. Hine Lo Yanum Elo Yishan, Shomer Yisrael. Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha Yad Yeminecha. Yom Mama Shemesh Lo Yakeka Ve'areach Balayla. Adonai Yishmorcha Mikora, Yishmor et Nafshecha. Adonai Yishmor Tzedcha Uvoecha Me'ata V'ad Olam. At this time, it's a big honor to call upon the Rabbi Emeritus of Young Israel Queens Valley, Rav Peretz Steinberg Shlita, for Divrei Bracha and opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Yuan. I was about to say good luck, but I know it's not my choice, Shabbos. It gives me great honor to say a few words tonight. When I go back into history, I was once a teacher for about 3 years in Young Israel of Kew Gardens Hills. And 1 year, I had a class, and in the class there were 4 girls. They all became Shem Shabbos and Film Eden. One of those 4 girls was a grandmother of today's speaker and to his wife, and that is Anita Searle. She's my Talmida, and she walked from Aguilar Gardens to our shul on 78th Avenue in Light Place every single Shabbos, together with a few friends. And when my wife was pregnant, she said, Anita, if I have a child, I want you to be the babysitter. Because she saw what kind of a girl this was, with Midosh, Toivosh, Ehrlichkeit, Flugkeit, the way she davened, the way she dealt with people. And so it was. My Yumi was born, and Anita was our babysitter. And as time went on, all of a sudden I got a call from Fred Nader's family people who learned Beis Shalom. The nephew wants to get married. He has a girl, Anita Searle. You know anything about her? I said, I sure do. Chap the shidduch. I became a shidduch right away. And I was on the plane with them the first time they went to the Chovos, the Weizmann Institute, where Fred Nader was going to teach. The funny thing, on the plane, there were many Chazonim. There was a Chazonim conference in Eretz Yisrael. There were many Chazonim on the plane, and the natives were sitting amongst them. They came to me. I don't know if you realize the Chazonim of old were not medactic so much in a mincha. They were medactic on Musaf, Yom Kippur. That's it. But a mincha, so it came to mincha. Who's standing up? Fred Nader standing up, davening. The Chazonim there, all sleeping. And that was Shacharis as well. And he went to Eretz Yisrael a few years ago. She was sitting Shiva, Staten Island. I'll come back to that in a minute. But I had a cousin, a very, very kosher cousin, who married a brilliant guy who was once a lawyer. And then he decided that he had a better business than being a lawyer. He bought 40 brownstones in the Boston area, and he rented it out to students. So he got the cash before the semester started. He went back to Israel, come back the next semester, got the cash the next semester. He said he was a wealthy guy. You understand that 40 brownstones means about at least 400 students. Can you imagine what that means? So one day, finally, they got divorced. And once a person came into my cousin and said, Dina, you're divorced now. Your husband had 40 brownstones. You deserve 20. And the cousin looked at brownstones? What are you talking about? I have skyscrapers. I don't have any brownstones. You can have all the brownstones you want. He has brick and mortar. And look what I have. Come. And she took him over to the wall. Look at my children and grandchildren. All Oishim, the Torah, the mitzvahs. So what do I have? I have skyscrapers. I have little brownstones. There's a mattress I have. They don't talk to their father, and the father doesn't talk to them. But these are my children and my grandchildren. What I need is 20 brownstones for. And a very similar story happened when I went to see Anita. She was sitting Shiva. First I went to Yaakov in Agile Gardens. And Menachem Ovel, he told me his sister is in Staten Island. I went in there. There were many people in the house. I walked in, she was surprised. And she said to everyone, this is my rabbi. Because of him, I have my family. Come over here. And she took us over to the wall and showed us the 4 children and the grandchildren of Israel. These are my skyscrapers. She didn't say they were skyscrapers, but she had a big honor. So that's what I say. These are skyscrapers that a person is zeicher to have a family such as this. I just wanted to say these few words before I hear the guest speaker tonight. You didn't come to listen to me, you came to listen to him. And he will tell you about his experiences and will be inspired, and we hope that Bereshit will bring Shalom on Yisrael and Shalom over the entire world and the of your man.
Shakaya to the Rav. Let's go around the Rav. Round of applause. Rav Hashem. Give her a physical inspiration tonight. And, Baruch Hashem, someone behind the scenes for tonight. Baruch Hashem is our dear friend who, Baruch Hashem, is the publisher of the Queen Jewish Link, the Bukharian Jewish Link, and that's not only what he does, Baruch Hashem, behind the scenes. He's involved in so much great community and Klal Yisrael work, and it's our great honor to call upon Mr. Yaakov Yisrael.
Hi, well, this is amazing. Thank you all for coming. And Rabbi Steinberg, you really inspired me. Actually, Batsheva, who is Anita's granddaughter, my sister had a tremendous influence on me because of Rabbi Steinberg. And I just want to thank all of you for coming. We're honored to have an organization like Boots for Israel here, Chazaq, and just all of you coming. And one thing I want to say to everybody is that during the 2 years of the war, from October 7th, as soon as the war happened, my great nephew, he was drafted in immediately. They called him on Simchas Torah. He went into the army. He fought. He was telling the stories that he'll tell you tonight will just amaze you. The inspiration. And he also mentions that, my niece mentions how much the achdus from Klal Yisrael was what was so inspiring. She would get flowers from people she didn't know. She would get, people would come, they'd want to do whatever they could for her, for the mothers, for the wives. And she was also, she had just gotten married and she was pregnant with a child, and she was all alone. I mean, she had Anita and her father, and her grandparents and her parents, but she didn't have a husband who she just married, and then they had a baby, and Yosef was, Baruch Hashem, able to come home on leave at one point when the baby was born, when their daughter was born. But the fighting that he did in Gaza and in Lebanon was he was fighting for all of Klal Yisrael and all of us. And we, as a community, we got together. We said to Helen, we did all these things. But for a soldier to be there, I was 20. How old are you? 20? 23. I don't know. When you started in the army, you're probably about 21. So a young guy to fight for all of us. We really have to give him a big round of applause. So I think that Debbie wanted to say a few words. Okay, and this is the Rebbetzin.
Hi. First of all, thank you all for having us. I'm going to give a short introduction so you know what our lives looked like for the past 3 years. And Yosef will soon share his inspiring miracle stories that even though I've heard them dozens of times, every time I hear his stories, I get chills because you mamash see the miracles firsthand. So we met in 2020 when we were 18 years old. Yosef volunteered to come help me during my national service. I helped out with families in my community, and he helped out. And then we started dating. We were very young. He was in yeshiva at the time. A Hester program, so he was in yeshiva, and then he would have been drafted to the army. And we said we're going to wait to get married when we're 21, when he finishes the army. But a few months into dating, we said, you know what, we're not going to wait, we're going to get married. So at the age of 19, we find ourselves getting married. 3 months before he was going to be drafted to the IDF, we moved up north to his yeshiva to Ma'alot, and we lived there for a few months until he got drafted. The big day came. He went into the army, and I went back to my parents. I moved back in with my parents, and this lifestyle was supposed to last about 1.5 years of being together every other weekend, and the rest of the time we were living our separate single lives again. After 1.5 years of serving, we were very excited that the day was coming, that he was going to be released, and we would finally be able to live a normal life as a normal family. And we were especially excited because we were pregnant, and we were excited to announce our pregnancy to our family and friends. So the entire month before, I made a whole countdown, and I stayed up all night the day before, and I baked a cake, and I surprised him early in the morning. He made this whole video leaving base for the last time, saying, that's it, I'm not going to be back here for a while. And it was very, very exciting. This was a few days before Sukkot, and then over Sukkot on Chol HaMoed, his family hosted a barbecue in their house for his unit, for all his friends, to celebrate their release from the army after serving for a full 1.5 years. It was really exciting. It was a whole big deal. And as we all know, just a few days later on Simchas Torah, October 7th, everything changed. I moved back in with my parents, and it was just, all over again, but on steroids. He was called back in. I remember on Simchas Torah, him walking to our apartment early in the morning on his phone. I was very, very confused, and within a few seconds, there was the first siren. We ran to the back room in our apartment because we didn't have a safe room, so you need to go to the inner room. And in between sirens, when I'm still half asleep, we ran over to his parents' house that live a few minutes away to go find a shelter because they had a mamad in their house. Yosef was on his phone off and on, speaking to his commander. He'll share more about it, but he was packing his bags, getting on uniform, and within probably an hour, he was already out of the house. Saying goodbye was very hard. It felt like a weird movie. We didn't know what was coming next. For all I knew, he was coming home that night or the day later. We had no clue what was happening. So it was hard, but it wasn't so hard because I didn't know what I was getting into. So Yosef left. We had no communication for about, I would say, definitely the first few days, no communication at all. Obviously, end of Simchas Torah, we open the news and we see, wow, this is much bigger than we thought. Probably everyone here had that same reaction. And there was a few weeks leading into the going into Gaza for the first time, the first entrance by foot. So that entire time, we were trying to find out how we can come see my husband. His mother was coming with me, so to come see his son, because there was no visiting allowed. And something that was a huge help for us was that our family and friends from the US were sending in duffel bags with underwear and socks and energy bars and all these different things that the soldiers needed. So we would call up his commander and say, hey, we have a duffel bag with many things that are worth letting us come for. And then we were able to go and visit him for a few minutes. Sometimes we didn't even get to see him, but it was an opportunity to try to go see him. So the week leading into going into Gaza, every day they said, we're going in tomorrow, prepare yourselves. So I would get a phone call from Yosef saying, we're going in tomorrow. This is my last phone call. I don't know for how long. But stay safe, stay positive, and I'll speak to you when I can. The next day he calls again. We didn't go in yet. It was pushed off. We're going in tomorrow. The whole unknown was also very hard, not knowing. And then finally came Friday, and they had the first official visiting day. This is 3 weeks into October 7th. Official visiting day, all the mothers and wives, I was one of the only wives, came down to where the boys were staying. They had these big tents put up because there were so many soldiers. There wasn't even space in bases anymore. And we went down, we brought some food for Shabbos. We got to visit for one last time. Shabbos was very hard because for all I knew, he was in Gaza already, and it was terrifying not knowing what's happening. First time going into Gaza. But mostly Shabbos, I get a call again. It was pushed off to tomorrow. So one last time, we were trying to think, how can we go see him one last time? His mother managed to pull some strings. She got these bulletproof plates that go inside the vest. Very worth it for them to let us come. This can really, really protect our soldiers. So we found ourselves driving down south once again. And we got there when the soldiers were mamash standing in their circles with the commander preparing them, giving them a nice pep talk about to enter Gaza. I don't know if this was so great for Yosef, but I was so lucky to see him that one last time before going in. Now, this was a full month of him being in Gaza. We had no communication, and I had a very hard time in the beginning. I don't remember much of it, but my mom, before we came to the US and before we were going to speak, she said to me, you were really in bed. You were depressed. I don't remember this, but she said, we had to pull you out. But a few days later, I pulled myself together and I said, my soldier is in Gaza. If he knows that if it was his wife at home is down and sad and depressed and in bed, it's not going to help his fighting. So I had to get up and I had to continue with life because that's what he was fighting for. So I got myself together and I went back to work and I went back to being happy and meeting up with friends. And for me, that was knowing that he has one less thing to worry about. And when I sent him letters, I always made sure to send a little summary of what my day looked like to make sure he knows that I was happy and positive. A huge thing for me that came out of this war, a really huge thing that as much as things were so hard and terrible stories happened, we're trying to stick with the positive right now and share our positive miracle stories. But for me, what happened is that I saw a huge togetherness of Am Yisrael. If Hamas was trying to put us down and separate us as a nation, the opposite has happened. I was receiving phone calls and messages and emails from people who knew me or didn't know me. I was getting flowers to my door almost every Shabbos. I was getting cookies sent. Every time I would go down to visit my soldier, but many soldiers on the base, as soon as someone heard that I was driving, they would quickly stop by and drop off cookies or challah for Shabbos or schnitzel for Shabbos. I found myself going down with a car full of either equipment or food for the soldiers because everyone wanted to take part. And people telling me, like, we're davening for Yosef. People would hear his name and say, oh, I know him. He's in my siddur. He's in my tehillim. And if I was receiving all this love, there were so many wives of soldiers, so many families, so many mothers. If I was receiving that means there were thousands and millions maybe that were receiving the same type of love. So for me, that was a huge deal, and I thank you all because I know that everyone was part of that love. We felt that love, the virtual hug, and that's what really helped us keep going. And for me, it was a huge deal seeing that achdus, that togetherness of Am Yisrael. And now Yosef will share his incredible miracle stories.
First off, I want to say thank you to Young Israel and Chazaq and my great uncle Yaakov Searle for making this happen tonight. It means a lot to me too. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, before October 7th, and then we'll dive right in. So I was born in Boca Raton, Florida. I made Aliyah in 2009, and throughout, since I made Aliyah, before I loved playing sports. I loved playing baseball. That was my favorite sport. I would actually play on the Team Israel national team. I played for Team Israel. I would travel around Europe. I was really involved in baseball. And I got an option before I got my draft date saying that I could play baseball and represent my country in my sport instead of drafting into, combat or intelligence. So when I heard that, I'm like, wow, that's a great option. This is my dream. I could play baseball for my Army service. That'll be amazing. Before I had my deadline to decide what I'm doing, I sat down with myself a lot, and I decided to go the yeshiva route and combat because I knew that I was only going to have this one opportunity in my life to serve as a combat soldier in the IDF. It was a very hard decision, but that's what I went for, and I will never take it back until today. So I'm going to move over now to October 7th, then we'll get into my stories. So I was in shul from Simchas Torah morning. We were starting at Kafos, and I was heading outside to start dancing with the Torah. And then my rabbi and my friend ran into shul, told me that your commander is trying to reach you. You have to run home, get on your phone. So at that point, I didn't have my phone on me because I just got released like 4 or 5 days before that. I gave back my gear, my gun. And so I run back home, I get my phone, like what my wife said. She said that she was in bed, it was early in the morning. I get on the phone with my commander, he says, you gotta get back to base. We don't know what's going on exactly, we just gotta get everybody together. And then from there, we're gonna figure out what we have to do. So I get back to the last base that I was based at. We get there with all my guys. Like I said, I didn't have the gun that I had at the beginning or the same gear that I had throughout my service. And they just gave us, random gear that they had, anything that they could throw on us. And they gave me a gun. I was a machine gunner, so I had this really heavy gun. And when I went to shoot it at the shooting range to make sure that, my gun is shooting right and everything, my gun didn't shoot. And I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. So I go to my commander, I'm like, my gun's not shooting. What am I supposed to do? I'm like the frontline machine gunner. I'm going into the houses, whatever happens, I'm gonna be leading the way. I need a gun that works. So we went back, there was no guns for me. Everybody had a gun. Everything was chaos on the 7th. So he's like, if it shoots a bullet, it's better than, nothing. So I'm like, all right, thank you. So I stick with that gun. October 8th, we didn't head down south. We were still getting all our gear, getting it all together. My commander circles us in a circle, telling us that we're getting on helicopters, we're heading up north. So when he said that, we're like, okay, Hezbollah, we're going to be fighting against Hezbollah now. They might be entering from the north to try to start a war over there too. So we go in the helicopters, we travel like a half an hour, we land by the border, and we're there for around like a week and a half. There wasn't so much action like there was down south, so they told us we're going to be heading down south, we're going into Gaza. So it took us about like 3 to 4 weeks to actually enter Gaza. I don't know if you guys remember at the beginning, Biden came and they needed the Air Force to flatten the grounds a little bit before the combat soldiers come in. So it took a little bit of time. So while I had those 3 weeks, I got a new gun, thank God. The Army came with new guns, and I got a really good gun it was like my gun on steroids. It was really, really good. So I was happy about that. So when they told us we were finally entering Gaza, they told us we were going to be going in by foot. Some units went in by vehicle. They said that us in Givati, I was in Nahal, 931, and we're going to be going into Givati. We're going to be the first units going in from northern Gaza to Jabalia. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Jabalia. It's a very big area. We're going to be walking in 7.5 kilometers. So it was very tough because everything's sand in Gaza. As you guys see in videos, it's like you take a step, you kind of sink in. So we entered Gaza after 7.5 kilometers. We started conquering, a lot of territory. And then about 3 to 4 weeks, there was the first ceasefire, the hostage deal. For us, it was we were very happy that we're getting that hostage deal, we're getting hostages out. But at the same time, we know that, we're going to be paying the price. The combat soldiers, now Hamas has time to regroup and they could put their explosive devices back in places that they want to. We can't, so we knew that we're going to be paying a price, but at the same time, we're getting our hostages out. So that first month, we didn't see face-to-face action with Hamas, terrorists. It was more like the tanks and Air Force and other drones were, kind of doing the job for us. After the first ceasefire, it started getting a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to move into my first story. I call it the cookie story. So about a month and a half into the war, I was in this area called Shati. It's also in northern Gaza. And at this area, we were there for a week and a half in this strip. And we didn't sleep so much. We slept an hour or two a night, and we'd be fighting day in and day out. It was very, very intense and tough. Halfway through that first week, some guys, including me, were breaking down a little bit mentally and stuff. It was just very hard. We weren't eating so well. We weren't sleeping. It was very tough. We knew the purpose of us coming in and what our job is, but sometimes it was very tough. So what we do is at night, we stay in a house. We do bayit v'agana. That means that we do our defense. So we build our own house and we guard it during the night, and then when it's the day, we start fighting again. So we have different guys guarding at different times. So I remember when I was guarding by the window, I was looking up to Hashem, and I was telling him, Hashem, we need some strength. I know, thank you so much for keeping us alive, healthy, and we're doing our job. We're getting everything, we're doing, the best we could do. But we need a little bit more strength. You got to strengthen the chayalim up. So there's this thing called a tisbuk. Every 24 hours, they come with army jeeps, and they give us water and canned food, whatever we need for the next 24 hours of fighting. And sometimes they give you chip bags and Doritos, something to cheer you up and you share with the guys. So my commander went down with a couple of my friends, other soldiers, while I was guarding, and they went down to the Hummers to pick up the food. They come back up. Usually what we do is we guard and we want to go right to sleep, because we're not going to have so much time until we have to get up again. But I had a feeling that I just wanted to check out and see what was in the boxes. So my commander came back up with the food. I finished my shift, and we can't use flashlights because if we use a flashlight, there's no electricity or water in Gaza. So if we use the flashlight, they could spot us, from miles away. So we have these little red flashlights that we could go around the house and use. So I took my red flashlight, I went into the box, and I see a box that said, Yosef Dov ben Rinat Rachel for his protection. And I'm like, that sounds like me. This is I was like, what's going on here? So I opened up the box, and it was my mom's cookies in the middle of Gaza. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So I called over my friends, because I had some friends from my community that was also with me in my same unit. And we started eating my mom's cookies, and we were very happy. So after we got out that first time, I called up my mom. After we left Gaza, there was another ceasefire. And I called up my mom, and I'm like, Ima, I got your cookies. And she's like, no way. She's like, you have to hear this story. So there's this guy that he learns in the Mir Yeshiva in Yerushalayim. He's my age, 23. And there's this program in that yeshiva that if anybody wants to learn towards a soldier, they could do so. So he landed on my name, and he finished the Masechet, Kedushin. And he invited my mom over with my in-laws for the siyum. And my mom's like, can I make some cookies? And he's like, for sure. So she made some cookies. And after, the siyum, there were some leftovers. So she's like, no, just pack them up and give it to the army and let's see where it goes. So it landed in my hands, my mom's cookies. So it was it kind of, rounded up. It was crazy. Until today, I'm learning with that guy. We're learning 20 to 30 minutes a day. and hopefully we'll finish our own Siyam together. So that was a beautiful story there. So next story, this is the first night of Hanukkah. We entered, this is after like three and a half months of fighting in Gaza. We were in Jabalia this whole time, it's very big. In Jabalia, in the middle, the center of Jabalia, there's this place called Mempe Jabalia. It's like the headquarters of where all the high-rank Hamas leaders and terrorists and a lot of hostages on the 7th also went towards that area. They were in that area. So they told us 3 days before the game plan of how we were supposed to enter this area. It was very tricky. It was very squishy. It's like the streets in Yerushalayim, how you like walk through these little narrow walkways. It's like soldier by soldier. You can't walk with two guys. So they told us the tanks can't go in. It's only going to be us. So we knew that this is going to be more intense because usually the tanks will hit the house and then we'll go in. But here they can't do that. So we knew that this is going to be, this is going to be tough. So the first day we started entering in, and I was the frontline machine gunner. So my partner was my commander, and I would go into houses and I would spray bullets before we go into the house, and then we'll go in. We got a command on the walkie-talkie saying that there were 3 terrorists running around in these strips. We couldn't catch them, just be alert, be ready. So we had this next house. They told us we're going into this house. There's gonna be, some guns. Yeah, well, 99% of the houses are guns, rocket launchers, grenades. But they said that there's more in this house. So what we do is we don't go through the normal doors to the house because then they could surprise us or they could have an explosive device connected to the wall in the house. What we do is we have this thing called a mizgeret pizza. It's like a door that we lay off and it makes a hole and then we could go through. So we try to go through living rooms and different areas of the house so we could surprise, if there's a terrorist, we would surprise them and we'll go in. So in this house in particular, they told us that we cannot go in with shooting because we have other units around us, so we don't want to hit them through the walls. So they said only if there's a terrorist, then you shoot. So I'm going to try to explain to you guys how it looked. So we let off the device, we just randomly put it on a certain part of the wall. It's a very weird long shaped house. So let's say we put the explosive device here. We let it off, we waited 30 seconds for the smoke to go down. Then me and my commander broke to the left side of the room. And then my sharpshooter, my friend, and my other friend broke to the right side of the room. And I started hearing gunshots right next to my foot. And then I looked to the side and told my friend, stop shooting, because we weren't supposed to shoot in that house. Maybe he didn't hear that we weren't supposed to shoot. Then I see behind a couch, underneath blankets, I see a sandal with a foot sticking out. And my friend starts shooting, whatever, and everything like that. We pick up the blanket, and we see a terrorist with a machine gun waiting for me. I was going to be the first one coming around the corner from any other angle of the house to surprise us, and he would shoot us. The big miracle of that is not just my friend saving my life and seeing the terrorist under the blanket. It was also that we put that explosive device right next to the wall where he was hiding behind the couch. Because if he would have put it in any other angle of the house, he still would have had time to, he had more time to prepare to shoot or whatever he had to do. So it was a miracle that we just randomly put that, right there, the explosive device, and we took down the terrorists. I actually, in that house afterwards, we went to, check in the rooms and see what there was. And we found 16 machine gun Kalashnikovs and 15 rocket launchers in a suitcase. And then we went back to the house. It was the first night of Hanukkah. And in the Tispook, in the Hummers that came by with food and stuff, they gave us some light, candles to light, if you have anything you want to light for the menorah. So I took those tuna kiss cans with the oil in it. I stuck it in there, and I lit my first, my nice Hanukkah. So it was beautiful. Yeah. The next story, this was already four-ish months into the fighting in Gaza. We were actually out, we were waiting for our next mission to go back in. My commander told me that it's going to be at least a couple of days. It was Friday morning when this happened. He said that you could go home, you could be with your wife, you hadn't seen her throughout her whole pregnancy. You could be there for Shabbos, come back Motzi Shabbos, Sunday morning, we'll call you back. So I was thrilled, to come back home and see my wife. So I get back home, it was Shabbos night. I went to a Shalom Zachar for my friend, he had a baby boy. And I had my phone in my pocket just to make sure if he calls me back, I should just be, alert. So, of course, he calls me Friday night, Shabbos night. he says that we need you back tomorrow morning. We have a new mission. So I'm like, great. So I gather my bags and I head back 6 a.m. back to the base. So we get on the Hummers quickly. We had a new mission. It was like a 48-hour mission. There was a tunnel we had to guard, and Shayetet is like an elite unit that was going into the tunnels. We had to just guard the tunnels when we go in. So we get to Ma'abar Erez. This is a new area that we entered Gaza. Usually we went through Zikin. We went through also the Nova sometimes, like certain areas. This one area we never went through. And usually when we go into Gaza, the first time we went by foot. After that, we went with army vehicles. And it's like Hummers that are open on all sides. It's like a Jeep ride. It's not like, it doesn't really protect you. So we have tanks going over the roads that we're about to go on, the Chayalim that are going to be going on, to make sure that there's no explosive devices. A lot of times they put Tanim on the roads and stuff. So I guess they didn't do such a good job, or they didn't go on it this time. So we get into the vehicle, and it's how it works is there's a driver, there's a machine gunner that's a little bit higher in a higher seat, and then there's the commander on the right side. And then there's us, the Chayalim in the back, we're all squished. There's like 10 Chayalim in the back. And what we do is we put our big backpacks on the outside. They have like a chain to like hang it on the outside to make it a little bit more space for us in the Hummer. So 5 minutes in, this area we already conquered months ago. We didn't even put our earplugs in or our glasses on, our bulletproof glasses, because we're like, okay, we could breathe a little bit more until we actually have to put it on for a very long time. So we enter 5 minutes in, I hear a big explosion, boom, and the sand in my vehicle goes up in the air, and my ears start ringing like in the movies, and I hear another 2 big boom booms, and then I start feeling like raindrops, and I start looking at myself, and I'm covered in blood, and I look at my friends, and they're all covered in blood. At that moment, we didn't know what was going on. Our vehicle kind of flipped over to the side. Whoever, me and my friends jumped out of the vehicles, and we tried to get behind cover to make sure, we didn't know exactly what was going on, where the terrorists are. And then there were 3 soldiers that didn't get off the vehicle. The driver was, I hope he got up. They said that he was unconscious. He was in a coma for a couple months. I hope he got up. The machine gunner, he was 24 years old. He died on the spot. And then the Mefaked, the commander of that vehicle, he was critically injured. What they said was that there were 3 explosive devices, 2 on the path and 1 on the wall. And I guess the one that was connected to the wall splashed on the front of the vehicle, and they got all hurt or died. And we, for some reason, I look down and I look at all my friends, we're all fine. And I'm like looking like, how is this possible? And then I look at our bags from the distance, and I see our bags torn apart. And then I realized that the shrapnel went into the bags, and it saved our lives from getting hit. So as much as it was very sad that we lost, a soldier and hopefully just 1 soldier, and some guys got injured, 10 of the other soldiers in the back got saved because of these bags. So that was, as much as it was very sad, it was a very big miracle. The next story I'm going to share with you guys, this is after I got released from Gaza. I was there for like 4.5 months, and then they said that we could go home and you guys could rest. We have a new group of guys going to be switching you guys out. So my wife was really happy that I'm finally out, and I got out like a week before she was due. So I was there for the birth, thank God. About like 2 months after, I go to the butcher shop with my kid. And I went to pick up hamburgers, and they only had frozen hamburgers, so I picked those out, and I was gonna go make it for dinner. I get home, and I take a knife to try to separate the hamburgers, and me being Yosef Green, the type of guy I am, I sliced it right through my hand. Yeah. So then I had to get surgery. It was a whole crazy thing. My friends actually made a joke about it until today. They still laugh about it. Hamas should have just put frozen hamburgers on the table when you enter the house, and they would have knocked you out. After all those miracles and stuff. So there I am after surgery. My wife, was kind of, down that I can't now help with the kids so much because my hand wasn't in use. And then about a month and a half later, my friends get a text message. This is already now I'm going into my reserve duty. They brought us back to our actual service. So we were like, in the normal service, now we're going to reserves. And they split us up into different groups also. So my friends got a message saying that they're going into Lebanon. We need you guys now, we're going into Lebanon. are going there now. I went to my wife and I'm like, can I please go in? And she's like, no, you're not going. The doctor doesn't let. Whatever, my hand wasn't really in use, so I was kind of bummed out. And at the same time, I forgot to mention, when I got released from Gaza, my baseball team, I played, as I said, I was on the national team. They were qualified to play in the European Championships in Switzerland. And my coach came up to me saying, oh, you're out of Gaza? You're coming with us. You're going to pitch for us? You're going to come? So I was all psyched, ready to go pitch in this crazy tournament. And then 2 weeks before, these frozen hamburgers took me down, so I couldn't play. So I went to my wife after she was, very, bummed out, and I said, listen, Akol Mishamayim, Akol Tova. We have to look at the positive from it. As much as, I couldn't be on the team, it's hard, I couldn't help as much as I can with the baby. Akol Tova, we're gonna see it, we're gonna see the light of Hashem. So they went into Lebanon, and I was actually with a different group. I wasn't with exactly the same group that I was with in Gaza. They switched me with a different group to be their frontline machine gunner. And I don't know if you guys remember, around Sukkot time, there was an incident in Lebanon with a couple, a very big incident with a rabbi with 10 kids. He died. Yeah, you guys heard that? So I was supposed to be with those guys going into Lebanon. And I was supposed to be in the front line there, and if I was there, I would have been in that, situation. As much as it's hard to have other soldiers, have been fallen, and it wasn't, me, it's very hard to put that there. But Hashem kept me at home so I could stay safe. Because if I would have been there, I would have been in that, same house, and who knows what would have happened to me. So that was a very big, miracle that, Hashem gave me another chance. And I'll tell you guys, the biggest thing I think for me that kept me going throughout the war, and my wife and my family was a big part of it. But before I entered Gaza, I took upon myself that I'm never taking off my tzitzis, and it doesn't matter what, I'm davening Shachas Mincha and Marv. If I'm walking into the house, if I'm, whatever I'm in, I'm not missing a davening. So in the 4.5 months that I was in Gaza, I never took off my tzitzis, and I davened every single davening, and that's what also kept me going. I also went up to my commander early in the morning, taking me a half an hour start so I could put on tefillin. We brought in 2 to 3 pairs of tefillin into Gaza. So us and our friends, as much as our bags were so heavy, we were never going to leave that behind. So we could put on our tefillin and say Shema in the morning before we go out to battle. So that gave us a very big boost. So yeah. If you guys have questions, we can do some question and answers. I'm free to ask. You guys can ask anything you guys want. And I'll answer, yeah.
What happens to the weapons that you capture?
So what happens to the weapons that we capture? So we give it to the tanks, and they bring it back to Israel. We don't use it. They're like, their weapons are trash. So ours is way better. So we bring it back to Israel, and they do stuff with it. We don't use it. We don't touch their stuff.
What position you play?
What?
What position are you playing base?
What position did I play in baseball? I was a pitcher and center fielder. Yeah. Good question. Best question. Yeah.
Are you done with the Army?
So she asked if I'm done with the Army. I actually just got released from my reserves. I was there for 5 months. I was in Lebanon. They built actually a couple bases inside Lebanon to make, a line to make sure Hezbollah doesn't come too close to the border. So I was there for 3 months, and then I was 2 months in Gush Etzion, where the terrorist attack was a week ago? So I was there a month ago. They just switched us out. We're exactly where we were. Yeah, so I was there, and now I'm out. I'm here, my wife. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you know where the hostages were?
Did we know? No. So we did not know, and that was also very tricky for us because we didn't want to go into a house and shoot a hostage. But in war, you can't really think you can't just go into a house and think that there's a hostage. We have to be careful, but we have to still go in spraying bullets and also protect ourselves. Going in. But we had no clue. I know the intelligence and for sure other, they knew, but we had no clue. We did find a hostage though that was killed on the 7th, a girl next to a mosque. But besides that, we didn't see really anything else. Yeah.
We have a stepson in Israel, and he went through similarly, this kind of battles as you did. My husband was trying to connect with his wife while he was out, but she would always say, I don't know where he is. He cannot let us know where he is, and she was very careful to communicate the messages through WhatsApp. She says that they were watching it. How do they
So yeah, they also told us we didn't have our phones. I forgot even my password when I came out. It was so long that I didn't have my phone. But yeah, they didn't want us to have our phones because they could kind of hack into our locations and like figure out exactly where we are. But we did go in. My commanders had this like army phone that was only meant for knowing what area we're in, or if we have to call a certain person in the army or message somebody. But yeah, they didn't let us have it because there's ways to hack it these days. I don't know. I'm not such a tech guy, but they for sure could find ways. And soldiers would post things on Instagram. I don't know what they would do. So you never know what these soldiers would do. So they said no phones, and also we didn't want to hear any bad news. We wanted to focus on our mission because there's always bad stuff going on. So we had no clue. Like I had no clue when I would come out. I would come out and I had no clue what was going on the other side of Gaza or anything like that. I just knew what was going on with where we were. So yeah.
Like how much intelligence do you have about which houses to go into, which ones are safe?
So
How do they tell you this in advance?
So before we start our mission, or sometimes while we're conquering houses, they would alert us that there's a certain house that might have an explosive device connected to it. I actually lost my commander to that. He was next to my house, and there were 3 terrorists that let it off, and him and I don't know if you guys ever heard of Shauli Greenleak. He was on X Factor. He was a singer. I don't know. His parents are also very active now. They're speaking in a lot of places. So they fell together, and then there were another 11 guys that got injured. Some of my friends lost their legs. It was a very hard situation, but it just shows how we get into these sad situations and we don't know what's up with our friends, but we gotta continue and we got still a job to do. We still have to fight, and we kept it going and we did our mission and we conquered what we had to do, and yeah. Anybody else? What? Okay, wait. Yeah.
Besides baseball, what are you doing now?
So what am I doing now? So I'm coaching in under 18 baseball in Israel. So I'm still involved in it. They still try to get me back to coach, so I'm coaching there. And I started working in real estate. So if you guys are looking to buy in Israel, you guys know where to go to. Best guy in the market. So I got my license. If you guys are looking, my cards are over there. So if you guys are interested, I'm buying right there. Yeah. So they also that's a good question. So how do they choose me as the machine gunner? Choose what unit you're saying?
Yeah.
So I didn't choose because I drafted with my yeshiva with some of the guys, so they kind of put me in a combat unit. All the units, if they're not elite units, are kind of the same thing, just different names, like Sanchanim, Givati, Nachal, they're all the same stuff. It's just different names to the units. How I got the gun, it's just, I guess I'm a little bit strong, so they said you could take it. And I got the gun. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but Sheva mentioned the Achdus during the war.
Yeah.
What's the feeling in Israel now? If now it's relative peace, do you feel the same Achdus? I mean, they have the whole thing with the politics and the draft and all these things.
Right. So you guys could see a lot of things on the news, and if you guys could be like, oh, that's exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Also in Gaza, there's videos of it's horrible videos of saying soldiers are doing this to Palestinians, and I could tell you that when I was in there, my commander and other guys in my unit, we would go into schools and houses that had older people that it was hard for them to walk, and we would help them down the steps, and we would cross the street with them, and it would be in the fire zone. Hamas, could be anywhere, but we would first think, try to help, whoever we can get out of the house before, we would do, explode it, whatever we had to do, and we make sure they were safe. Unlike them, on the 7th, they would come in and they would just, do a massacre and see whatever they do and just kill. Yeah.
Of course, the world doesn't advertise the good
Exactly.
stuff.
They don't advertise the good stuff. Exactly. Yeah.
How do you overcome the fear of it all?
How do I overcome it as being there or after?
When you were going into it, how do you sleep at night, and how do you what if you're really scared?
If I'm scared, all my friends are scared too. So the only thing that really pushed me and my other friends is that if your friends are in, you're not going to leave them behind. So you're going to go in with them. And that was the biggest thing for me. My friends came up to me. There was another machine gunner in my maflaka. He would be, in the other class, so he'd be a little bit far, behind me. And he's like, let me switch you. You know, you have your wife is pregnant, and you know she's at home. I don't want anything to happen to you, you know, because there's a bigger chance of something happening to you than if you're, you know, in the front and you're in the back. I said, there's no way you're switching me. I'm nothing else. You know, I'm here. This is my job. Hashem put me in this situation. This is my, you know, and I'm going to do it. So thank God I'm safe today and I got the job done. Yeah.
Were you able to assess how well trained Hamas is, how good fighters they are?
So they are horrible fighters. They're really, really bad. They're not even an army. They're a group of terrorists that come out of tunnels and they come and they shoot an RPG and they hide back down. We're not fighting against an army. We're fighting against more like a terrorist group. And it wasn't like, I'm saying, even we went up to Hezbollah, like they would show us, like when I was in my actual service, they'll show us, you know, if we go into Hezbollah, this is their game plan. The second the war happened there, they started running back. They were scared of us. You know, it's not like, you know, you're really fighting against an army. They're, you know, they're scaredy cats at the end of the day. They'll come and they'll shoot, but at the same time, they're not scared to die. So they would, you know, again, they'll be in a house waiting for a chayal to come in. They'll try to take down that chayal, but you know, he knows he's going to die at some point. You know, he's not going to get out of that house alive. But that's, you know, that's who they are. So we value life a lot more. We'll be more careful going into houses. They don't really care. But yeah, they're not really an army. They're a terrorist group. Yeah.
Did you interact at all with the Palestinian citizens in Gaza? And what was their, how do you feel their attitude was about the story?
So I'll tell you the truth. There's no civilians in Gaza. As much as you see it on the news or on YouTube and you see all these videos of donate to us, this, that. On October 7th, you could see a lot of video footage of a lot of, you know, civilians, as you say, running into, you know, the kibbutzim and killing and stealing and doing all these things. I can even tell you in Gaza, like we knew that, you know, these guys are terrorists, but at the same time, the army said that we can't shoot. Like we got to a school that had over 2,000 Palestinians in that school, and I saw 5 terrorists running around, and my commander said, don't shoot because we can't kill a kid. We don't want to kill anybody, as they said, innocent, even though they're not really so innocent. As you see in these videos with the whole ceasefire, you see kids, you know, sitting around looking at the hostages, you know, getting released, and they're saluting them, and like they're not saluting, like happy about them, you know, they're here in their bodies, and it's horrible stuff going on there. Being inside and seeing, you know, the videos today, it's totally different. It's really not like that. Most of, you know, as you see, you know, Hamas was in Shulton. They got elected to being, you know, who they are because of the, you know, because of these Palestinians that live there. But yeah, that's what I think. Every house, I can tell you, yeah, 9% of the houses, there were things to do with Hamas, guns, machine, like whatever, there were rocket launchers, snipers, pictures of Hamas leaders, even in like if you think they're civilians or no civilians. Like my friends, I have some friends that are leftists, and they would come into Gaza at the beginning, they'd be like, oh, I don't want to just shoot up houses and explode them because there might be civilians there. We went into every single house, they had something, or bullets or something to do, you know, with Hamas. So yeah, that's how it more like it is.
Do you feel there is such a thing as an innocent Palestinian?
Truly, I don't think so. No, not there. No. And we had to like look at it like that, but there's for sure in the family there's something to do with Hamas. From me experiencing going into the houses, there hasn't been one house that I went into, and I went into hundreds of like I don't know, even thousands of houses, and we always found something about, you know, to do with Hamas or weapons or something. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Perhaps you could give me some advice.
Yeah.
You know, I run across a fair share of anti-Semites and other assorted people who call Israelis baby killers and curse me, and well, I've had my experiences, and they're quite sure that the Israeli army is killing children and doing all sorts of horrible things. What can you tell me? What proof can I give to these individuals to tell them the truth? Because I'm actually sick of it, and I'm too old to join the Israeli army, and I'm not an Israeli.
If I was you, and I was already here, and I got this whole chant of like, kill the IDF, or this guy came to me on the streets, ignore them. Who cares about them? We have our own, you know, we have our family here, we have Am Yisrael right in front of you. Who cares about what these people think? You know, they're all, you know, crazy in the head. As you see, you know, you can see these beautiful, my friends, you know, look at these stickers. I have stickers here of my friends that fell in the battle. Just look at their smile. You know, these people can't see, you know, these sweet young men that, you know, fell for our country, and you see their smile on their faces. you could that just shows the whole story. Like, there's nothing really else to show besides just, seeing these guys that put their bodies on the line at 20 years old, In the U.S. military, they have guys that are 30, they're going into battle. We got guys coming out of high school, going right into battle, putting their lives on the line, saving their friends. Like, there's stories that in Gaza, one of the other units, they told us that, my friend, he said that a guy in his unit fell on a grenade so he could save the rest of the guys in the room. You're like, who does that at age 19, 20? That's, our mindset. We care about that. We value life. We value, we're here to help others. We're here to, that's my biggest goal now. Since I came out of the war, I would always try to find somebody that needs help, if it's on the street, or just say thank you to the guy that's, stacking the food in the grocery store, because these guys don't always get such a thank you. Without them, you wouldn't get the food over there. So I visualize life right now a lot different than since before I went into Gaza. Yeah.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you so much for your service and for coming here. And, because I don't get to see a lot of soldiers, I want to thank you so much. You guys are like a different breed of people. You guys are so resilient. And you truly are the strong line.
Thank you so much. It means a lot. And it means a lot for me to also spread it to you guys, because I know, like what my wife said, you guys done so much for also Am Yisrael, for the Chayalim, and you guys are far away. I know you guys wish to be with us, in Israel at the same time and fight with us, but we feel you guys, my friends feel you guys, and my friends wear all the underwears that you guys bring in for us. So yeah. Yeah.
So thank you so much. You're amazing, and you're also so positive. So what's the degree of the percentage of post-traumatic stress, and how's that being handled? I'm sure not everybody is as amazing and as positive.
Right, so...
I mean, they should be.
Right, so what they did actually for us is when we got out of Gaza, we actually arranged it ourselves. We had we went to this, how do you call it? The word retreat? Yeah, we went where there's a pool and a sauna and a hot tub, and we had some psychologists come to us, and we did these games, and we kind of spoke about our experience and what we felt. That was really, really nice. Yeah, a lot of people are going through a lot of tough stuff.
I'm talking long term, that's great, that's the beginning, but there are people who are going to need.
Yeah, there are people, yeah, people also need it now. It's a war. I don't know exactly what I could say about that. A lot of people, experience this in different ways. I just really hope that everybody gets better from it. It's, we're in a hard time right now. We're in a war. It's been going on for 2 years. It's a very long war. We're still losing, Chayalim. After the ceasefire, still a couple Chayalim has fallen. It's not easy. But, hopefully everybody will be, good and safe, and everything will, settle down. Hopefully, with Hashem.
You've what do you call? Everybody's saying how positive you are, and do you feel that soldiers that come here to speak, or yourself personally, and I know that some of your family have had hostages in Florida this past week, and realize, is that therapy for you?
So this is really good.
Proud and telling your story.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the truth. When I first got released from Gaza, the first couple months was very hard for me to get back to reality and get back to life. I was kind of in my bed on my phone. I didn't really want to go out and see people. It was very tough for me after losing, my friends and stuff. And then I kind of sat down with myself, and I'm like, listen, Yosef, you gotta get a grip. You have a kid, you got a wife. And you can take this in 2 different ways. Or you could be in bed all day and not do so much, or you could get up and try to inspire others and share your stories and stay strong and be there for your family and be there for your friends. And thank God I had the strength to get up and do this, today. Yeah.
I don't know if you are aware that on December the 3rd, my niece with the family are donating a trauma unit in Chazaq for soldiers who are coming from the war, for the trauma.
Thank you so much.
And the 1st of December in the Chazaq hospital.
Wow, thank you so much. Wow, thank you. Do we have time for a small clip? Yeah? Okay, so I just want to go back. When I was in Gaza, we got mail from my family twice when I was in there. It's pretty nice. So one of the messages, my sister worked in Shalva. It was, she did her national service with the kids with Down syndrome. And there was this one kid that we really connected to, and he would come over for Shabbos. and he would daven for me every day when I was in Gaza. So I did, those Gamba show videos. I went to visit him in in Shalva, and I'm gonna play the video and you guys could see it. I don't know if you guys saw it. It went a little viral, but you guys could see it again. Why is it not working? The music's fine. I'm gonna play it after.
עוד יבואו ימים טובים גם בשעות החשוכות של הלילה תמיד יהיה כוכב קטן שיעיר לך את עצמך איך הדרך הביתה שוב לפני הצליחה מיליון רכבות גדולות עד אוסטרליה מחפש רחוק את מה שנמצא לך מתחת לה
I'm going to show you guys one last video. It was kind of like a recap after my 4 months of fighting. We had GoPros and stuff, and my unit came out with this cool video, and you guys get to see a little bit of what we went through. Yeah.
דור ודור היו את האנשים שקמו ואמרו הנני.
So the guy speaking now, this is my commander before he fell, and he gave us this, his name was Shai Shamriz, and he gave us, every time he would speak, he would give us some type of strength that would keep us going. So he put his speech, at the beginning. Here.
דור היו את האנשים שקמו ואמרו הנני. ואמרו אנחנו המגן של העם. יש עלינו זכות להיות לוחמים.
You'll see me twice in here. I gotta look quick.
החבורה הזאת יושבת כאן, שעומדת כאן, היא המגן של העם.
That was my commander.
Everything's a fear in your heart, like cinder blocks crushing your chest.
That's a tunnel we found.
Break, escape from the dark. Can't get it out of your head. This is my world. Oh, you took a long time. Now you're stuck in my world. Trust me, this is gonna hurt. Why would I be watching her? This is my world. Can you feel it coming around? Daylight's turning into night. Locked up for the rest of your life. Step it up, get ready to fight. This is my world. Oh, you took the wrong turn. Now you're stuck in my world. Trust me, this is gonna hurt. Darling, I've been watching burn. This is my world.
All right. Last question?